played Wimbledon, and my family came. The whole family was out of the country.
Sobrang di ko pa mapaniwala. Maraming salamat sa suporta. Sana patuloy yung suporta niyo sa akin. Kamusta mga kapang Pinoy? Surprise! Excited na akong imbitahin kayong lahat na manood sa mga laban ko sa Mubadala Abu.
The events unfolding in Dubai this week transcend a simple tennis story about a 20-year-old player. She is not merely trading forehands and backhands under the blazing desert sun at the Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships. What we are witnessing right now is nothing short of a massive and historically significant cultural earthquake. A deep reckoning has been building for months and has now erupted spectacularly into the glaring public spotlight. Across every single sports talk show and social media timeline, one incredibly uncomfortable question echoes loudly. The tennis world is asking if this is racism, feeling that raw electric tension at the heart of the firestorm.
Champion and tennis legend Martina Navratilova, and when she speaks, the sport listens, but this time she is not.
When this legendary woman speaks, the entire sport usually listens, but this time she is absolutely shouting.
What began as a scheduling dispute into a global conversation about race, power, and the politics of professional tennis.
What initially began as a minor scheduling dispute has transformed into a global conversation about race and power.
Label of a promising Filipino teenager or rising WTA star reluctantly acknowledged by mainstream coverage, but
she is far more than the simplified label of a promising Filipino teenager reluctantly acknowledged by mainstream media.
Explosive debates in years. To truly grasp the staggering, almost unbelievable scope of what this young
we must truly grasp the staggering and almost unbelievable scope of what this young woman has proudly accomplished.
Complete sense. Alexandra Eala was born in Manila, Philippines, on May 23, 2005, and from an early age she carried.
Alexandra Eala was born in Manila in the Philippines on May 23 in the year 2005.
Long been dominated by players from Europe, the United States, and Russia, and the path for an Asian athlete to
professional women tennis has traditionally been entirely dominated by players from Europe, America, and Russia.
Been narrow, difficult, and filled with institutional barriers. Eala made it clear she intended to bulldoze through.
Reaching the highest levels of the professional tour has historically been difficult and filled with institutional barriers.
Title at the French Open in 2022, establishing herself as the most exciting prospect ever to emerge from.
She began turning heads as a junior player, successfully capturing the junior singles title at the French Open. Winning that title in 2022 officially established her as an incredibly exciting and promising prospect. She is widely considered the most talented tennis player to ever emerge from the Southeast Asian region. Her rigorous development at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain perfectly sharpened her solid technical foundation. She learned to master her craft under one of the most highly respected training systems in the entire sport. Her incredible natural athleticism fused with a fierce competitive instinct to create a genuinely dangerous competitor. She confidently stepped onto the court and completely dismantled the absolute best tennis player on the entire planet. She keeps stacking incredible victories that would have undoubtedly generated endless mainstream headlines had she simply originated from a more traditional tennis background. Now, proudly ranked inside the top 40 players in the entire world, she firmly stands as the absolute highest-ranked Filipina athlete in the history of the tour. This ongoing narrative is no longer just about raw potential because this is sheer reality unfolding right in front of us. Wherever Alexandra Eala chooses to compete, she effectively brings an entire massive army of dedicated supporters along with her. They bring a fierce emotional intensity that is extremely rarely witnessed within the traditionally quiet and reserved sport of tennis. Fans are constantly waving flags, echoing loud chants, singing passionate songs, and proudly painting their faces in bright national colors. At the Australian Open earlier this year, the surrounding scenes were absolutely extraordinary as dedicated fans were actively camping overnight outside the venues. They slept outside just to secure seats, leaving the massive arenas literally vibrating with deafening chants of "Fight Alex." This incredible energy ends up transforming every single one of her matches into something far more significant than a standard sporting contest. This phenomenon is not merely casual fan support, but rather a monumental cultural movement that has taken a life of its own. This movement has completely changed the fundamental atmosphere of every single tournament she officially enters and competes in. The overwhelming sound of Filipino chants has literally shaken the heavy rafters of stadiums that have historically hosted the absolute greatest players in tennis history. These passionate individuals are certainly not your average casual spectators who are merely showing up for a quick picture or a selfie. They are fiercely loyal supporters who willingly travel thousands of miles and consistently spend serious amounts of their own money just to watch their favorite star compete. When analyzing the situation by every commercial metric that truly matters, including ticket sales, merchandise, and television ratings, her massive impact becomes undeniably clear. When you factor in her massive social media engagement, Alex Eala is absolute box office gold for any tournament organizer. This precise reality is exactly why the events that immediately unfolded next felt so incredibly out of touch and profoundly outrageous to her fans. It explains exactly why a legendary figure like Martina Navratilova finally decided she had seen enough and chose to speak out. It also perfectly clarifies why the entire professional tennis world suddenly found itself caught completely on fire with intense public debate. Despite her incredibly high global ranking and her long list of giant-killing victories, she still faces a strange and persistent lack of respect. Even with a global army of fans who consistently pack massive venues wherever she plays, Eala remains marginalized by the scheduling committees. She has been repeatedly and intentionally scheduled to play her important matches on much smaller secondary courts rather than the center court. Instead of competing on the main stage, she is pushed to obscure outer courts that many casual fans completely bypass on their way to the headline matches, tournament after tournament. This disturbing scheduling pattern has appeared entirely too consistent for her dedicated supporters to simply dismiss as a random coincidence. To these extremely observant fans, this situation feels significantly less like an innocent oversight and much more like a systemic problem. It looks like the deliberate marginalization of one of the absolute brightest and most commercially valuable young stars in the entire sport. This ongoing scheduling controversy finally reached an absolute boiling point earlier this year at the Australian Open tournament. The situation violently boiled over when both Martina Navratilova and her fellow tennis legend Lindsay Davenport decided they could no longer remain silent. They publicly and aggressively voiced their deep frustration regarding the glaring inequality of the current state of tournament scheduling. The glaring mismatch between her immense popularity and her poor court placement has become completely impossible to ignore. This undeniable discrepancy is actively fueling a fierce debate that now stretches far beyond simple tournament scheduling decisions. Frustrated fans were literally left clinging to perimeter fences just to catch a fleeting glimpse of the thrilling athletic action. Meanwhile, the prestigious main stadium court displayed noticeably large patches of completely empty seats during lesser matches. Those featured players possessed only a tiny fraction of the massive drawing power that Alexandra naturally commands. Martina Navratilova closely observed that stark contrast and bravely called it exactly what many devoted supporters believe it to be. She openly labeled it a blatant double standard that feels deeply rooted in something far more sinister than a simple scheduling oversight. Once the heavy word of racism officially entered the public conversation, it absolutely could not be pulled back or ignored. Observant critics began directly comparing how this rising star was systematically treated versus players with similar or even lower rankings. When looking at competitors with demonstrably smaller fan bases receiving better treatment, the difficult question became entirely unavoidable. People are legitimately asking if there is a deeply ingrained bias within the scheduling structures against Southeast Asian players. They constantly wonder if there is an unspoken institutional hierarchy that automatically elevates athletes from traditional European and American tennis powerhouses. This assumed hierarchy seems to exist entirely regardless of the objective commercial and competitive case for promoting stars from emerging global markets. Many passionate fans firmly believe the answer is a resounding yes, and they collectively decided that Dubai would be the exact moment things finally changed. Amid all the swirling political and social tension, however, it is absolutely crucial not to lose sight of her actual brilliance on the court. We must clearly acknowledge exactly what she has spectacularly achieved at the Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships. Her highly anticipated showdown with the sixth seed Jasmine Paolini was exactly the kind of breathtaking athletic performance that demands universal respect. That specific match should have sent every single major sports media outlet racing to declare a permanent changing of the guard in women's tennis. Paolini is absolutely no pushover, as she is a former Dubai champion, a top 10 player, and a seasoned Grand Slam finalist. She entered the important match as the clear favorite and was widely expected by professional pundits to easily dispatch the young challenger without too much trouble. Instead, what wonderfully unfolded under the stadium lights was an absolute masterclass in fearless and highly aggressive tennis. She viciously attacked her opponents, served with relentless intensity, and confidently dictated the baseline exchanges with remarkable precision. The young star played the entire match with the spectacular tactical freedom of an elite athlete who is completely and totally locked in. Taking the opening set with a commanding score of 6-1 was an incredibly loud and surreal statement against a formidable top 10 opponent. To her absolute credit, Paolini professionally regrouped and fought back hard in the second set, exactly as true champions always do. By that specific point in the match, it was abundantly clear to everyone watching that this was not just a promising prospect having a lucky day. The second set slowly moved into a highly tense tiebreak, and that was exactly where something incredibly crucial about Alexandra truly revealed itself. She bravely held multiple match points, but unfortunately let them slip away, a dangerous moment that usually triggers a complete mental spiral for younger players. Despite the shifting momentum and creeping doubt, she completely refused to collapse and instead showed the icy resolve that defines true elite champions. When the final glorious point was won, she closed out the match with absolute authority, causing the packed crowd of Filipino supporters to completely explode with pure joy. When the final glorious point was won, she closed out the tiebreak and the match with absolute authority, causing the packed crowd to explode. Filipino supporters packed into every available space around the court and erupted in a massive celebration that transcended mere applause. It was a powerful wave of pure emotion that rolled through the venue, proving the Filipino fan experience is rapidly becoming undeniable. Tournament directors will have to seriously account for this incredible energy as her global ranking continues its meteoric rise. This is certainly not a temporary surge of attention, as the visibility generated by the controversy has only massively amplified her profile. It has thoroughly energized her supporters and strengthened the commercial case for positioning her as a marquee attraction wherever she plays. Ignoring that profound reality is simply no longer viable, a lesson the organizers at the Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships learned the hard way. More broadly, this entire episode raises incredibly uncomfortable questions about whether the current tour scheduling systems are truly suited for the modern era. In a modern world entirely driven by social media, a single disrespectful court assignment can transform into a massive global flashpoint within hours. The old traditional model, where a small circle of tournament officials made opaque decisions with absolutely no public explanation, feels increasingly outdated. Today, modern fans have instant access to advanced statistics, broadcast metrics, and powerful digital platforms that allow them to mobilize instantly. This specific situation perfectly demonstrates exactly what can happen when scheduling decisions appear completely disconnected from true competitive merit. It shows the fallout when the establishment ignores glaring commercial reality in favor of deeply entrenched and outdated traditional hierarchies. If there is a silver lining in all of this chaos, it may be that the intense controversy has successfully forced a much broader global conversation. The world is finally discussing vital issues of transparency, fairness, and how emerging stars from non-traditional tennis markets are treated. We are evaluating how they are actually integrated into the biggest stages of the sport, whether the old establishment is truly ready or not. The global tennis landscape is shifting rapidly, and incredibly talented players like her are currently standing right at the very center of that transformation. This important conversation is absolutely no longer happening in quiet whispers, as Martina Navratilova bravely brought it out into the open. The passionate fans massively amplified that initial spark, and, to their credit, the organizers at the Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships finally responded. Even if that overdue response only came under intense public pressure rather than as a proactive acknowledgement of their glaring mistake. The tennis establishment has now been forcibly made to confront the very real possibility that its rigid decision-making processes contain massive blind spots. Those unfortunate blind spots may have caused very real professional harm to hard-working players who objectively deserved so much better. It is an incredibly uncomfortable reckoning, but an absolutely necessary one, and the dramatic timing only adds to the cinematic tension. The center court announcement, seen by many as ultimate vindication for the fan campaign, miraculously arrived at the absolute perfect moment. She is currently playing the absolute best tennis of her young career, not just passively receiving the spotlight, but aggressively stepping right into it. She is doing so while in peak athletic form, confidently facing a top-4 opponent who has shown visible and exploitable vulnerability on her serve. The overarching narrative feels almost beautifully cinematic, as this specific clash carries the incredible potential to become far more than just a tennis match. It could easily become a defining sporting moment discussed for many years, extending well into broader cultural conversations about true representation. We are witnessing what spectacularly happens when a brilliant athlete from an underrepresented nation finally receives the grand stage she has fully earned. History has generously given us iconic moments like this before, such as Jesse Owens defying a hateful ideology with pure athletic performance at the 1936 Berlin Olympics, or Naomi Osaka navigating triumph at the 2018 United States Open. We vividly remember Manny Pacquiao famously rising from crushing poverty to become a massive global boxing icon. These historic events completely transcend the realm of sport to become enduring symbols of possibility. They firmly embed themselves within our shared intercultural memory as profound symbols of ultimate perseverance. Alex Eala is currently writing her own incredible story, and she is still so young. Being only 20 years old, this phenomenal run may merely be the very beginning of her athletic journey. It could easily blossom into one of the absolute most historically significant careers in professional women's tennis. However, this particular week in Dubai undeniably feels infinitely larger than simple tournament wins and standard losses. There is additionally a deeply fascinating layer of social complexity quietly surrounding this entire dramatic situation. This incredibly layered narrative prominently features Coco Gauff, a player who has consistently presented herself as a powerful advocate. She has always championed true justice and genuine equity, while speaking very thoughtfully on complex social issues. She deliberately uses her massive global platform with clear intention and highly commendable moral purpose. Yet, she now suddenly stands directly on the opposing side of a fiery narrative centered entirely on institutional fairness. The entire world is questioning whether the establishment actually supports Asian players with the same respect it freely gives to others. People wonder if athletes from traditional tennis powerhouses inherently receive much better and far more favorable treatment. Gauff is an incredibly talented Grand Slam champion and currently ranks as the #4 player in the entire world. She is undeniably an integral part of that very establishment, regardless of whether she fully embraces that specific label. She perfectly represents its absolute upper tier as a massive American star, confidently stepping onto the prestigious center court. She is preparing to battle against a fiercely determined player who actively had to fight tooth and nail for that exact same placement. She fought incredibly hard for the right to simply be seen and respected on that massive stage. Gauff is certainly perceptive and intelligent enough to fully understand the deep cultural nuances surrounding this exact pivotal moment. Judging from her thoughtful public comments regarding the passionate fan base, she fully anticipates a highly charged stadium atmosphere. It is abundantly clear that she deeply respects the incredible social movement that is currently unfolding right in front of her. She is definitely not approaching this showdown as just another routine tennis match or blindly assuming any entitlement to the spotlight. She knows exactly what she is walking into when she steps under those bright stadium lights. She recognizes she is stepping into a fierce contest heavily weighted with unstoppable narrative momentum and profound cultural symbolism. It features an overwhelming amount of raw crowd energy that may very well tilt heavily toward her incredibly determined opponent. The deafening crowd support will likely tilt heavily in favor of the rising star from the Philippines. For Alexandra, this massive golden opportunity genuinely feels almost too beautifully scripted to actually be real life. After being unfairly sidelined and casually treated as a completely secondary attraction, everything has finally changed for the better. She now proudly and fiercely stands right in the middle of the absolute biggest and most prestigious stage the tournament has to offer. She is completely backed by an army of devoted fans who brilliantly organized, mobilized, and loudly demanded proper recognition on her behalf. Standing directly across the tennis net is the formidable number 4 ranked player in the entire world. Her opponent is a player who is completely accustomed to receiving prime scheduling and effortless global attention. This specific athletic clash is an incredible moment that is heavily charged with deep cultural meaning and profound global symbolism. It features a brilliant rising star from a historically marginalized tennis nation, bravely facing a true representative of the established order. They are battling it out under the absolute brightest and most intense stadium lights currently available in the sport. They are performing under the absolute brightest lights available in the entire professional circuit. Whatever happens when the very first tennis ball is firmly struck, this amazing chapter has already guaranteed her permanent legacy. It guarantees that her immense presence in the sport of professional tennis can absolutely never be ignored again. For several long years, her American opponent has rightfully received prime-time billing and endless mainstream media coverage. She has always enjoyed luxurious center-stage treatment and the total backing of the tennis establishment. Yet she now arrives at this match following a very shaky athletic performance that included 16 frustrating double faults. That messy prior match featured a shocking near upset against a significantly lower-ranked and much less experienced player. If this entire incredible storyline were literally a Hollywood movie script, cynical critics would probably call it entirely too convenient. But this breathtaking narrative is entirely real, and it is spectacularly unfolding right now in front of our very eyes. The massive center court in Dubai is just about to proudly host an epic quarterfinal match that everyone is eagerly anticipating. The entire professional tennis world will be watching this historic athletic showdown with absolute fascination. Consider exactly what a deep semifinal run or even an appearance in the grand final would truly mean for Alexandra. It would mean absolutely everything for the future of Philippine tennis and for broader Asian representation in the sport. It would also drastically alter the commercial future of the women's tour within one of the most lucrative emerging markets. It could completely transform their business strategy in one of the absolute fastest growing and most passionate sports markets on the entire planet. The Philippines is proudly home to more than 110 million fiercely loyal and dedicated people. It is a vibrant nation that is deeply passionate about competitive sport and has been waiting for a true tennis star of this magnitude for decades. Official television broadcast ratings in the region have been absolutely shattering previous records. Television ratings in the Philippines for the Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships have reportedly surged massively during all of her thrilling matches. The incredible outpouring of digital support has been equally astonishing to witness online. The sheer volume of social media engagement from passionate Filipino fans actively interacting with official tour content is staggering. Those crucial online digital metrics have rapidly skyrocketed to completely unprecedented and truly historic new levels. This beautiful outpouring of national support is not merely a heartwarming human interest story for the local evening news. It is a completely and totally commercially transformative event that smart tournament directors, wealthy corporate sponsors, and major television broadcasters simply cannot ignore. This is not merely a heartwarming story, but rather a completely and utterly commercially transformative phenomenon. Smart tournament directors, wealthy corporate sponsors, and major television broadcasters should take immediate notice. They should all be fiercely competing to place Alexandra front and center at absolutely every single given opportunity. This is not solely because it is the fair and equitable thing to do, although it undeniably is. It is essentially because promoting her makes absolute and undeniable business sense for the entire sport. The fiercely passionate fans gathered in Dubai have effectively done the Women's Tennis Association a massive favor. They have demonstrated incredibly loudly and unmistakably that there is a truly massive, fiercely passionate, and commercially powerful audience. This incredibly lucrative demographic is eagerly waiting and absolutely ready to be fully embraced by the establishment. Fully embracing this massive new audience clearly begins with treating Alexandra exactly like the undisputed global star she has already become. So here, we firmly stand at the Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships in the year 2026. We are witnessing a brilliantly talented 20-year-old woman from Manila actively playing the absolute best tennis of her entire life. She proudly commands the magnificent center court before an entirely sold-out and deafening stadium crowd loudly chanting her name. Standing directly across the tennis net is the formidable Coco Gauff, a celebrated former world #1 and a prestigious Grand Slam champion. She currently carries nagging questions regarding her recent serving performance and the deeply complicated weight of public expectation. She bears the heavy burden of being widely perceived as the traditional establishment favorite within a cultural narrative that has shifted quite dramatically. The legendary Martina Navratilova is watching very closely. The esteemed Lindsay Davenport is also watching intently, while the entire vibrant nation of the Philippines is proudly tuning in. The entire Professional Women's Tennis Association is undoubtedly watching as well. Resting at the very heart of this incredible spectacle remains the deeply uncomfortable question that was rightfully raised at the very beginning. Were those frustrating scheduling decisions she previously faced simply a matter of careless and innocent administrative oversight? Or do those questionable decisions actually reflect much deeper and darker systemic issues regarding institutional bias? The world wonders exactly how the traditional sport genuinely values talented players who originate from non-traditional tennis nations. That fierce public debate will undoubtedly continue to rage on for quite some time. But what absolutely cannot be denied under any circumstances is that this highly specific sporting moment completely transcends standard rankings and simple scorelines. It powerfully speaks to the vital importance of true cultural visibility, genuine equal opportunity, and undeniable merit. It perfectly illustrates exactly what happens when a brilliant athlete who is nearly sidelined violently demands the brightest spotlight and then undeniably earns it. This profound emotional resonance is exactly why professional competitive sport truly matters to so many people around the world. It is not just about crunching cold statistics and polishing shiny golden trophies. It is ultimately about the deeply human stories, the incredible dramatic tensions, and the beautifully inspiring moments of triumph. We cherish those rare instances when historically overlooked voices bravely rise up together and absolutely refuse to be silenced or ignored. Alexandra Eala is currently busy writing one of those truly legendary and unforgettable cultural moments right now. The rest of the world would be incredibly wise to pay close attention and absolutely not look away from her greatness. I genuinely think my absolute best and happiest moment was when I first experienced the incredible thrill of winning at Wimbledon. However, it was definitely bittersweet because my beloved family was unfortunately not there to witness it in person. We sadly could not share that incredibly special milestone together as a unified family unit. I genuinely did not even know if they were able to completely comprehend the massive scale of what was actually happening on the court. Looking back at that incredible moment, I clearly saw that the massive stadium was absolutely completely full of loud and passionate people. I vividly remember looking up into the towering grandstands and seeing thousands of incredibly supportive Filipinos proudly cheering for me for days on end. It is truly such an unbelievable and profound blessing to experience that overwhelming level of incredible global support. When you analyze the massive global engagement and carefully look at the staggering viewership numbers on digital platforms like YouTube for those pre-tournament press conferences, you begin to truly understand just how many devoted people are consistently watching her incredible journey unfold.